All right, continuing on through my article here, the Diddy effect, ritual blackmail, and the Cabal's talent farm. Now, this is really part two, so if you want greater context to this, go to the YouTube channel, and part one should have already been released by the time this comes out. I'm just continuing on. It was a long article, and I didn't want to make my videos too long. So here we go, the Diddy effect, ritual blackmail, and the Cabal's talent farm. This is where cultural operators like Sean P. Diddy Combs emerge, not just as entertainers, but as handlers, gatekeepers, and initiators. Recent allegations surrounding Diddy, including sex trafficking, ritual parties, and surveillance blackmail, suggest a deeper function. He is not merely corrupt, he may be operational. Now, just to give you a little bit of context, we've been talking about how Hollywood is literally a wand. If you look up what Hollywood, it was a wand that was used to cast spells, and that the Hollywood stars are actually fallen angels. And so Hollywood's very deceptive. You think that you're watching entertainment, but really what's happened is the television was a technology that was designed to program. That's why they would even call it a television program, because the technology, television was like the Google of their day or the Chat GPT of that day. It was the new technology. And those who could harness it knew that they could program people. So they called it was television programming. And so anyways, Hollywood literally is a wand that casts spells, and they've been using for many, many years now, Hollywood and television and the entertainment industry to basically initiate, baptize hundreds of millions of Americans, young and old, into their satanic rituals, into their satanic realities and ideologies. This is why we're waking up in a nation where perversion is esteemed, where right has become wrong and wrong has become right, where we're waking up in insanity, where young people are saying things like, I identify as a cat, and therefore we should have kitty litters at our school. And so we didn't just get here on accident. What happened was one of the arms of the octopus cabal that's been strangling mankind, one of the arms is this Hollywood, this mass propaganda. It's more than that. It's intentional spell casting by an occult priesthood. And now in this portion of the article, we're going to find out that not only has Hollywood been a giant deception where they're getting people to unknowingly worship the stars, the fallen angels, and where they're casting spells with their Hollywood, but now we're going to find out that the government has been in on it with them. The CIA, just various intelligence agencies. In fact, why don't I go back up and just get everybody read in real quick. Hollywood's reach and influence are not organic. They are engineered. The entertainment industry has long operated as a psychological operation arm of the deep state. Since Project Mockingbird and beyond, the CIA has used media and film as vehicles for mass influence and ideological subversion. In fact, declassified records confirm that agencies like the CIA, DoD, and FBI have helped shape over 800 movies and TV shows to subtly direct cultural values, normalize surveillance, and cast the state as a savior. Hollywood is a front line of narrative warfare. It packages propaganda in spectacle, channels national trauma through scripted catharsis, and performs societal initiations through mass ritual. And so we're finding out that the occult priesthood uses Hollywood as their wand to cast spells, and that the government is in on it. And so now we're getting to the Diddy effect, ritual blackmail, and the Cabal's talent farm. By the way, how many people do you think are out there that are hearing about the Diddy thing on the news, and they think that he was just, this awesome star who was having big parties, and he got caught doing a bunch of drugs and, being involved in a bunch of perversion, and they have no idea that Diddy is tied into Epstein, who's tied into CIA, FBI, which is tied into Trump, Russia, which is tied, that there's this octopus cabal that has all of these tentacles. And I've said this before, when you're first getting red-pilled and you're learning about all of the deception that has been running the world, at first you see a tentacle over here and a tentacle over there, and you're trying to describe it and you're trying to tell people about it, and you don't know how it all fits together, but you know it's a part of a cohesive game plan of demonic activity. And this is why it's so important to continue to do research, continue to study. Don't just bury your head in the sand. I know a lot of people get overwhelmed by all the information when they start finding out about the human trafficking and the deep underground military bases and the 350,000 missing children, and it can be overwhelming when you start hearing about adrenochrome, and you hear that Google Chrome is named after adrenochrome, and you start finding out all this information. It can be overwhelming. You think, what can I do about it? But I want to encourage you that your intentions are so powerful. There are some scientists that were able to isolate the smallest particle that we're aware of on Earth. And they isolated this particle, and somehow they were able to analyze it and look at it and hook it up to machines, and they could see colors on it. And what they found is that when people, the particle would change colors based on who was looking at it. And this shocked them. And so we don't understand just how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful our intentions are. This is why having a pure heart is so important, because your heart is impacting the earth more than you know. And so just being able to say, no, I'm not going to bury my head in the ground. I'm going to find out all that I can about what's going on in the earth, so that I can be a positive force for good, so I can judge with righteousness certain things as bad and certain things are as good, and that my intentions can impact the zeitgeist. Very important. It's very important. I've had somebody say, what's the point of sharing all this information? And whenever people say that to me, I share with them the principle from the book of Deuteronomy, where it says that once a thief is caught, he owes back that which he has stolen. This is a biblical principle. When we catch the spirit behind these bad actors, that spirit now owes back. It creates a chain reaction of events. And this is why I believe we are seeing all the good change that we're seeing. Trump being ushered into office and all the changes that are happening so fast is because enough people were agreeing that all of the open borders was wickedness, all the human trafficking was wickedness, all of the bizarre children identifying as cats and dogs was ridiculous. And so righteous hearts were agreeing together, and it was impacting the entire atmosphere of the nation and beyond. And so don't think that you may not have to be somebody who goes and and creates YouTube videos. You might just be somebody who your intentions are so powerful because you're made in the image of God that even your intentions, you're knowing what's going on is impacting and preventing the enemy from being able to operate so freely. So do not discount yourself. You are made in the image of God. Your thoughts are powerful. Your intentions are powerful. Your prayers are powerful. So don't bury your head in the sand. Keep studying out, because there are people who lives being devastated by this priestcraft, being devastated by Hollywood. There are children being devastated mentally, emotionally, physically because of what's going on with Hollywood and with bad actors inside the government. And so, for them, do it for them. We're going to get to heaven and find out that there were so many people whose lives were impacted because we had the willingness to even study this stuff out and participate in this spiritual and information war. Okay, figures like Diddy become multi-use assets, recruiters for rising artists and influencers, ritual initiators into the Babylon system through sex, secrecy, and humiliation. And we've seen that if you're paying attention to the trial and what's coming out, the level of humiliation that they use to dominate people and to create the Stockholm syndrome, where victims keep coming back to their abuser. Blackmailers ensuring loyalty through compromised material. Such figures bridge the entertainment world and the intelligence world. So the intelligence world uses guys like Diddy to obtain blackmail information, or just information in general, on all sorts of things that are going on. Such figures bridge the entertainment world and the intelligence world. They pull talent into spiritual compromise and legal vulnerability, thereby expanding the Cabal's influence over media, fashion, politics, and tech. It's basically a strategic military takeover It's a military operation from the highest level. And ultimately, Satan is the one who is operating, and he knows that ultimately he will be able to bring everyone into a one world government. He'll be able to bring everyone into a one world currency system where you'll have to receive a mark on your hand or your forehead without which you can't buy or sell. If you're not familiar with this, go into some of our videos at the homepage that talk about the coming AI God and how technology will be used to usher everybody into a one world government and a one world currency. So such figures like P. Diddy are used to bridge the entertainment world with the intelligence world. They pull talent and spiritual compromise into spiritual compromise and legal vulnerability, thereby expanding the cabal's influence over media, fashion, politics, and tech. And the result, an ever-growing pool of controlled assets, puppets in plain sight, bound not only by contracts but by ritual bondage. I don't know if you've ever seen like an athlete or an actor who you like and you've seen them in interviews and they seem like a pretty good person, they seem like a nice person, but then all of a sudden a political issue comes up and they seem to be shilling for some issue that you think any normal human being would think that that's ridiculous. And yet they are standing up for something so unrighteous and something so horrible. And you're like, that seems out of character for that person. I don't understand. Why is that person always on this side of the political scale? Well, there's a chance that they're just compromised. You get these people in positions of compromise, and athletes, entertainers, and they are forced. It's like, hey, you need to go on this show and you need to say this, or else, you know the blackmail that we have on you. A perfect example of this would be LeBron James. He is quoted as saying, "There ain't no party like a Diddy party." He's on social media saying there ain't no party like a Diddy party. Now that comment did not age well, but you could imagine one of the reasons that he is continually shilling for the left is because there's some level of compromise that he could be in. And so really what I'm praying for is for the America and the world to get set free. It's not fun having to live under the threat of blackmail. And so God, please usher in exposure of all this and put the bad guys behind bars. And all right, here we go. The result, an ever-growing pool of controlled assets, puppets in plain sight. All right, ritual inversion, the final spell. Millions of children in America have not been thrown into the fire like in ancient times, but they've been instead sacrificed to glowing screens. Parents often unknowingly have offered their children to the convenience of the television and internet as surrogate teachers and babysitters, and those screens have discipled them. God gave clear instructions. You shall teach my words diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. This was the divine liturgy for forming a godly generation. But the satanic priesthood has inverted it. Now, instead, the children rise to cartoons and go to sleep with TikTok. They walk by the way not with scriptures on their lips, but with AirPods in their ears and sorcery in their feeds. Instead of the Shema, they are catechized in gender confusion, sexual perversion, drug culture, violence as entertainment, fame as divinity. These are not just content trends, they are spells, rituals, liturgies from the throne of the beast, woven into the fabric of modern childhood. Hollywood's role? To raise up a generation in its own image, confused, addicted, godless, and bound.
The majority of people arrested in last